What is up guys, Andy Forest Team Runner here, back with another video for you today, and today we're going to be talking about my 2018 race calendar, the good, the bad and the ugly. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago now, after the Newent 9, my first video of what's going to be next, I said that I want to sit down and talk to you about my 2018 races. Now, I've sat down and recorded this video once, I have rambled and it was 18 minutes long. And you don't want to sit through that. I was going off at tangents left, right and centre. So we're going to break this down, we're going to try again, and I'm going to record this sensibly and maybe a little bit more palatable for you guys. So what we're going to talk about is the races themselves, the mixture between road and trail, the good, the bad and the ugly of those races, consistency, because that's something I want to talk about, and what we've learned from the year. So without further ado, let's dive into the races. Right guys, let's go through the races themselves. For those of you who are new to the channel or new-ish, you can find all of these races on the channel. They all have their own specific race vlogs. You can go back to those and have a watch through. I'm going to go through the list from January to the most recent one, the Newent 9. We're going to break them down and we'll go from there. So the first one in January is the Lliswerry 8. That was an 8-mile road race. We then jumped straight to May because our March races were cancelled due to the bad weather. So we had the Spring Mile race organised by our local athletics club on a track, 1-mile race. We then jumped into the Forest of Dean OMM marathon. That was a trail marathon, so that was trails. We then jumped to the Hereford half marathon a week later. That was a road race, and then we jumped to the Fountain 5-mile trail race up and down, which was at the end of May. So we had 4 races in May. Fast forward to June, we had the Summer Speedway 10k, that was a road race. Into July, again the Gloucester 10k, so we had 2 10ks back to back, June, July, and then we jumped to August where we had the Severn Bridge half marathon. From there, that was a road race. From there we went to the Swindon half marathon 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later in September, and then at the end of September we had the Forest of Dean Autumn Trails half marathon. That was a trail race. And then finally, to finish off the year in November, we had the Severn Bridge Night 5-mile night race. That was a road race, and the Newent 9, which is a 9.5k road race. So out of those, we have 1 track race, which is a 1-miler. We have 3 trail races, and we have 8 road races, which is really surprising because actually the year before I had a mix and match of trail and road. So I think I did 1 more road than I did trail, whereas this year it swings a lot in the favour of the road races. I must admit, I do chase the speed, I enjoy the speed, that's what I'm training for ultimately, but being blessed with the place that I live in here, I get to train on the trails, and actually I think that's the best combination, training on the trails, racing on the roads. So 8, 3, 1, so those are the races this year. On to the good, the bad, the ugly. So there's a lot of ugly, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of Let's start with the good. That's always a good way to start. So we had the Severn Bridge half marathon in August, clocked a new half marathon PB, 1:20 and 44 seconds. Absolutely over the moon with that on that course as well. That was super because I think that had about 500-600 foot of climbing. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was good. That was really good. We also 2 months before that, we clocked our 10k PB at the Summer Speedway, 36:41. So we clocked some really, really good times this year. I'm winding all the way back to the beginning of the year, the Lliswerry 8-mile road race. Only 2 months prior to that, in November last year, we first cracked our sub 6-minute mile race over 5 miles at the Newent 9 and also the Severn Bridge night race. So to go on to Lliswerry 8, an 8-mile road race, and get an even longer distance race under our belt, sub 6-minute miles at 5:55 pace, 47:20 I think my time was incredible. And that was a great confidence booster. But I've got to be honest with you guys, if there was a podium out of all of those, it would have to be the Severn Bridge half marathon, getting that half marathon PB. Excuse me, frog in my throat. The ugly. There's been a lot of ugly. Forest of Dean OMM marathon, unfortunately, which I was really gutted about because there's loads of training for that. Train obviously in the Forest of Dean, my local area. They bought the race here for 1 year and 1 year only, and it was the second week of our heat wave, so we had trained through the most bitter winter we've had in ages. And then bam, London Marathon hit a week before, and they had scorching temperatures. Poor people suffered horrifically, and then a week later we had the same fate. By mile 15 we were done. That race had 2,500 foot of climbing. That was a proper OMM light event. That was really, really good. And overall on the day, happy, came 7th, but from 15 miles onwards, I was in second place and I was doing really well. Story of my life. And then I think the ugliest, because there have been some meh races. Gloucester 10k was a meh race. I didn't do anything particularly wrong, it was just too hot to race. That was a month after the Summer Speedway PB, and I came over a minute slower. It was way too hot, and of course these last few races have been very meh because of the stitch issue that I had, but obviously what takes the crown has got to be Swindon. We set off at a lightning pace, a pace that I felt I could hold, and then bam, 6 miles in, stitch came, and that for the first time in my racing career, shall we say, my running career, I had to walk in a half marathon. I was devastated. We still came in at 1:23, so over the moon with that really, but we were on for sort of a 1:18, 1:19 pace at that time. I'll never know what caused that stitch, but that has then subsequently led to the demise of my races after that. So the Forest of Dean Autumn Half Marathon, the Severn Bridge night race, and the Newent 9. So as far as the good and the bad and the ugly go, we'll call it the good, the meh, and the ugly. Some great memories this year, but also unfortunately not so great ones as well. But let's jump to consistency. Right, so the final point I want to talk about this year is consistency. Now, this is a bit of a different one. I wouldn't normally include this, but actually having reviewed and analysed, and obviously having this time in December where I have no races to sit down and have a think about the year, I have realised that I've actually been really consistent in the area of my half marathons. The half marathon is specifically the race that I want to get really good at in. The 10k I seem to be really good at, but I don't enjoy it as much as the half marathon, because I feel in a 10k it's too short to get into a rhythm, into a groove. I feel like you're always kind of working really hard and you never get a chance to settle because those miles tick over so fast. So the half marathon is kind of where I really am setting my sights on getting some good times. And we ran 4 of them this year, all of them sub 1:25, which is super, because last year we ran 1:30, 1:30 and 1:27:30. So we got 1:27:30 at the Forest Dean Half Marathon last year. This year, 1:24 something at Hereford, 1:23 at Swindon, even though we got the stitch, 1:23 at Forest Dean Autumn Half Marathon, even though we had a stitch there, and the Severn Bridge Half Marathon clocking that 1:20. The Hereford one was the eye-opener that I could run the race fast. That was the first half marathon since like 8 months, since the Forest of Dean Half Marathon the year before. So that was September all the way through to May. We were going great guns until the last mile when we took the wrong turn. Couldn't believe it. I always do it. I always mess something up in a race. We ran 100 yards down the road where we shouldn't have done. Someone shouted at me saying going the wrong way, ran back, by which time 2 people had gone past me, and bless him, Lee had waited for me, and we crossed the line together. So fingers crossed. If I think about it, that could have been a 1:23. So that was a solid performance, but I'm putting that in the meh category because once again, Clever Clogs messed it up. So the consistency over the half marathon distance is something that I am super chuffed with. In my opinion, I think that is my proudest moment, not only to get my PB at 1:20, but actually to collectively run those solid times, even on the last 2, the Swindon and the Forest of Dean, suffering with those stitches. I think next year hopefully will hold a big PB for me in the half marathon. I can't wait to give it a go. So what have I learned from this year of racing? Wow, blimey, I've learned a lot. I've learned that I need to work on my pacing for sure. That the Here We Are Running, Chris did a fantastic video the other day about what he learned in 2018, and I think everyone can take something from that video because he said his biggest thing was pacing, and I think actually we can all do that. I'm particularly guilty as anyone to sometimes mess up my pacing. I have got way better at it over this year. This year has been fantastic for pacing, but I still find myself on maybe a couple of races just being a bit irrational with my pacing and maybe going out a bit too hard. So again, just fine-tuning that, but my be-all and end-all for next year is just, what I've learned is to just make sure I keep myself fit and healthy. I know that sounds a really stupid thing, but working out what these stitches were and that caused my races to kind of fall apart at the end were just due to 2 muscle lumps here, knots, that were pulling my shoulders in tight, and so I was getting no flexion through the shoulders when I was running. This one wasn't going back, this one wasn't coming forward, and vice versa. Therefore my trunk was twisting and getting knotted up. And I could have prevented it if I'd have just spent the time going through. I foam roll a lot, always with my legs after most hard sessions, but sometimes it's not just the legs that need attention, it's our upper body as well. I'm doing a lot of gym work at the moment to strengthen my upper back and my posture and my core, and actually that needs as much attention as the bottom half. So for me, my number one thing that I'm going to work on next year is making sure before every race I do like almost a full body checkup, make sure everything's moving right, my running gait is good, nothing niggling there, and yeah, definitely going to take that into 2019. So there we go, guys, that is a wrap. 2018 has been a blast. I cannot wait to finish it off now, enjoy Christmas, have a few days off, chill out, and get stuck into 2019. So once again, a massive thanks to all of you guys in there watching these videos week in, week out. I really appreciate it. Your support has pushed me over the line on many occasions this year, so thank you. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please do give it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and I will see you next time. Until then.